revamped, remotivated
With
squad.
Brad picked up on the Dorito side, especially not allow Keith, Brian Smith to come over here. Brad can do what he's doing over there on the Dorito side with Tim Montressor. I think that, again, they made that squad a lot stronger on that Dorito side, which will help the Snakes out here.
I don't know if they win an event, but I definitely see them as top 4 team.
Well, and it's possible. Who knows? But yeah. I agree with you. It's going to be we'll see.
It's going to be tough for everybody.
Yes, it's going to be. That's what I'm saying. But we're down right.
We're getting into that area of where they could do it, but the farther we go down, the harder it is.
Absolutely. But and now talking to Joey Blute, I thought it was great to bring him back on as the coach and keep them accountable because you have to have that guy on a pro paintball team to keep everyone accountable. Yeah. And I think he's done a great job at that. But when he always shoots it straight. When it's just me and him over there, and I'm like, hey, how's the team looking? He doesn't normally say, oh, everyone's looking good. He will specifically call guys out, say they're playing terrible, say one guy's playing great.
Right.
He always is unvarnished and honest with him.
Spitefully
For the first time, when I saw him today, I said, how's the team looking? He's like, look, I'm shooting straight. I'm like, shoot it straight for me. And he's like, everyone's playing well. I'm like, come on, man. That's what everyone says. He's like, no, seriously, everyone's playing well. I don't even have a starting 5. I'm going to be putting guys in different spots. He said it was seamless. Any position that he put a different guy in, he was switching guys from different sides, playing, Keith on the D side. He was playing guys out of spots. It didn't matter. They were still crushing people and playing very well. So,
well, traditionally, Damage likes to play super slow. There's no super slow on this field.
That was the first question I asked him was, hey, how are you going to slow this down?
You can't slow this down. There's no hiding on this field.
But by the time Sunday rolls around,
no,
it might not. They might not slow it all the way down, but it's going to be a slower version of what we see Friday and Saturday.
We will find out how slow it can be played on Sunday morning.
No, I just said that's what it was going to be. That's it.
Okay, I'm co-signing on what you're saying. Are we okay?
I'm 100%. When I say something, that's it.
I was agreeing with you, Rich. I don't know if you caught that.
No, I didn't. Sorry. I get very defensive.
I didn't disagree at all. So let's move on and talk about Uprising. So Uprising, they started off the first 2 days in Orlando at the World Cup, the last event that we got to see them play, and they beat the brakes off AC Dallas 6-1, and then they come out and beat Impact 4-2. So we were like, oh my God, Uprising, big game to play at World Cup.
That game against Heat, they were leading that
in the
game,
quarterfinals,
and then they just broke down, and then he came back. And so they just missed that top 4.
Uprising got knocked out of the quarterfinal match against the team that won the tournament by 1 point in a mistake that they know that they made where if they could have been totally different.
Right.
So that's how close Uprising.
Yeah, they've been thinking about that ever since. Too.
I definitely talked to them. They have definitely been
What do you think
about
tonight? You know what I'm thinking about,
so
bro.
They also have picked up a new body. They got Tim Russell back, which he'll be running a bunch of reps here on the Snake side.
He's a little payback.
He's another guy I got on my draft roster because I'm thinking, okay, Uprising only lost to Houston Heat by 1 point. And now they pick up Russellback. Russellback's going to want to get after it. This is a perfect snake side for them. He was $7,000 too, like Omar. I'm like, okay, this is a steal. Yeah. That allows me to afford Smotroff and some other more expensive guys. But like your son, got J-Rab on the team too. But Uprising legit. I have a legitimate chance to not just make it to Sunday, but to go deep again. They've already proven that to us. It's just they're so inconsistent. So we'll see if they can. And they know that too. They know how inconsistent they are. So they're trying to work on the better decisions in those big moments.
Yeah. But their first game, what?
And their first game against Impact.
Impacto.
So yeah, Impact's going to want to get some redemption from the 4-2 loss that they took at the World Cup. Let's talk about the next squad. So Los Angeles Ironmen. That's a massive rebuild that Todd is working on here with the Los Angeles Ironmen.
That guy, he just gets picked on, man.
Yeah, bless his heart. And he's fighting a good fight over there, but he keeps getting his teams destroyed by off-season moves and getting guys picked off. They lose Trevor Reeser, they lose Kyle Spica, but they get a big, huge signing and pick up Alex Rodriguez. A-Rod's arguably the best player in the center in the game.
Yeah.
I think everyone would pretty much put him in the top 1 or 2 or 3 depending on who their favorite guys are, but he's always in everyone's conversation about the biggest bruiser in the game up the center of the field. But this center is not as dominant, but if anyone can find a way to crack it open, it's definitely A-Rod. Don't be surprised if you see A-Rod playing in a different position and not necessarily always up the center. They also got a new 17-year-old kid named Peyton. I went to one day of their tryouts, and he was by far the best snake player that we saw out there. He's only 17 years old, Peyton. So, 17-year-old kid. I think he's from Arizona.
I like that. Slowiak is joining the team.
And I was getting there. So, they pick up Nick Slowiak. Now, Nick, what's interesting about Nick is that I was wondering, okay, you pick up Alex Rodriguez and you pick up Nick Slowiak. They typically play the same position. Is Todd going to let them play at the same time? Because we've seen Nick play some great paintball as that too occasionally. And I think that might be the case this weekend because he does have some untested dudes out here. Yeah. But it's still a kind of an interesting story for the longest-running pro team out here.
Yeah.
I think I really hope that they develop and that they work with Todd and they listen to what he's saying. But just the fact that there's so many new guys kind of coming together, and there's not one or two guys coming into a structure like there is on Damage or Impact and all the other teams.
Yeah.
I think they obviously have the potential, but it's going to take them a while.
You know what I think Todd needs to do for this year and the future? We both did it. More chocolate chip cookies for your players. They won't leave. He needs to do more chocolate chip cookies. Do something special.
So,
brownies.
Are you talking about less whipping
less
and
punches.
more chocolate chip cookies?
More chocolate chip cookies.
Less stick and more carrot.
Players won't leave if you could do chocolate chip cookies. That's what we did.
That's a damn guarantee.
Well,
that's a damn guarantee.
So let's move on because we got to talk about all these. We got 20 pro teams they're going to throw down this weekend,
That's
and we still got some more teams to talk about. So Seattle Thunder taking 11th place overall last year, a team on the edge, a team that could make some Sundays occasionally, but they made the first Sunday here in Vegas, but then after that it was 11th place, 11th place, 11th place. They took 3 11th places in a row, 14th at Cup.
They lost a couple
all about
players.
consistency.
Yes, except if you're 11th place and barely missing Sunday at 3 events in
Harrison
a row.
leaves, goes to Infamous.
Yeah.
So he played well for them last year. So that's a big loss.
It's going to be up now. Yes, they have to have. Patty Gleason's really going to have to step it up and fill those attacking shoes. Matt Chim's going to be on the starting lineup. John Kurzawa coming over from the Outlaws last year. He's going to get some spins too. Greg Rostek and Sakaguchi. Those two guys, they have a lot of talent in, man. I've seen some great points by both by Sakaguchi and Rostek. So those guys definitely can do it. They just need to do it consistently against the best teams. But they really could help out Thunder this year. And then also they have Adam Gomez and Brandon Unger and Corey Field. I like what we've seen out of Brandon Unger. I think he can play a little bit more aggressively over here on the snake side of the field. Matt will probably be behind him. He's played well as the 2. Corey's great at shooting people off the break.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
So and he looked pretty fit and fast last year too here at this event.
And it seems like he's got his focus back. Like he seems like he's hungry. You know, like you go through those ebbs and tides, right? Where you're on your top, you're on the bottom, and you're on top, and it feels like he's got that drive. You know.
They seem very motivated.
Yeah.
I talked to the Thunder guys for a while today, and they seem laser focused. And
they like their bracket. I talked to them a little bit today as well.
yeah, Thunder in with Russians, Damage, Energy, and ML Kings.
Hey, and Thunder gives the Russians the fits when they
For
play
some
them.
reason.
For some reason, that's the team they give the fits to. So they've done well against them. So we'll see.
Yeah, Thunder plays Damage tomorrow afternoon. Let's talk about Infamous. This is another team. Now we're down at the 12th ranked squad. They had the reason why they're down at 12th overall, even though they made some Sundays last year. They had 2 10ths in a row, but they took a 17th place at Cup. They didn't win a game. Yeah. They lost to DMG, Boom, Thunder, and X Factor, and that was the worst look that Infamous had all year. Yeah. In the offseason, making some moves. They pick up Greg Sewers from Impact.
Greg Sewers is a big pick. If you got Greg Sewers going down one tape, Thomas Taylor go down the other tape, those 2 strong guys to stop.
For sure. I think having threats and vets, right? Greg's both. He's a threat and a vet.
Yep.
Same with Thomas Taylor. But it's not just they got Callie back too. I think that's good for morale. Callie's a great player. That 2, that 3 shoots bodies off the break.
Yep.
Cody Mikowski, I think, is probably the most underrated player in professional paintball.
He is.
He was outstanding. They got Cody Chong, Mike Waring. They picked up. So Travis is definitely trying to make a run. I got to tip my hat to Travis Lemansky. He seems to keep his team competitive no matter what happens.
They will definitely be playing this Sunday. I'm going to go ahead and say that right now, Rich.
Okay.
Because you said earlier you didn't think so.
Did I?
Oh, yeah. Bus just came through right underneath that bus.
Yeah, no, Infamous definitely will not make Sunday. I think Infamous has a good chance this event.
Yeah,
I think
they looked pretty good at practice
today. They did. They looked. They were just. I mean, we go over talk to practice. Sometimes it's a little more serious the day before the event. Sometimes it's not. Just going through the motions. Don't want to show their hand. Travis had all of his game plans out, getting information. I mean, they were really clocked in over there for sure. Yeah. So Infamous definitely has a chance to go deep.
And good job keeping it going.
Yeah,
it's just tough, man.
Again, he's
tough.
able to keep them competitive and relevant.
And he's brought a lot of players in. Callie back, that'll be nice for the team because he's been with them for quite a while, and he fills that spot, that 2 and 3 spot.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about New York Extreme. One of the funnest teams to watch.
Yeah, so entertaining, man.
Yeah. They're fun.
And you know what? Like winning paintball tournaments is important. But being entertaining is also important. Those guys are super entertaining.
I was talking to Harris a little bit today, and he goes, "What do you think?" I said, "Just keep doing what you're doing, man. I love watching you play because win or lose, you still."
He lost some weight too.
Yeah, he did.
He dropped like 26 pounds. Yeah. So Harris Hussein, one of the most charismatic players out here, period, in pro paintball. Not the fastest guy, not the smallest guy, but his timing is outstanding.
And
he puts himself and does work, and he gets good, and he kills lots of guys.
And he's fun watching.
Hennessy, little guy in the snake, also highly aggressive.
Rosati's back.
Yeah, Rosati's back. I love how Kraft Jr. played last year. Kraft had some huge points, saving games for them. So they beat the Russians at World Cup. So it was in the prelims, but still, if you can beat the Russians at any time, you can pretty much beat anyone. Yes, but they
work on your
just were
consistency.
always on the edge. It was so hard. They didn't make any Sundays last
They're
year.
putting the work in on the field, but they're also putting the work on off the field, trying to really represent the New York Extreme organization I was talking about a little bit today. They're a great bunch of guys. The team is really wanting to do well this year, and they're going to give it everything they got.
I think they have a chance to make some Sundays. 13th,
Yes.
12th, 3 12ths in a row, and then an 11th.
I
That means
agree.
if you're 11th or 12th, you're right on the edge. They went 2 and 2 a lot and didn't
Yeah,
make
no,
it.
Win, lose, or
they're
draw, I'm a fan of those guys.
Me too.
Yeah, they're gonna put it all out there. I can't wait to watch those guys.
Yeah, and they play X Factor, Revo, and the Outlaws. Let's talk about DMG. DMG is another
Sacktown boys.
Yeah, Northern California squad. They picked up some new guys too. They picked up Mike McGowan, but they have, and then Hal Vanta. But they kind of have the similar lineup they've had for a little bit. They lost a couple players in 2019, but they also keep getting better and better,
Yep.
and they also have some threats. That's a team you can't really sleep on. And we're down now at the 14th ranked team, so that's just how deep things are getting. What are your thoughts on DMG?
Look, DMG had a great World Cup.
They
I
did.
mean, they got better through the year, and then they finished well at World Cup. Lost some players, picked up some players. They're going to be competitive.
They did good in Texas, 7th there, and then 9th at World Cup. So yeah, they made 2 Sundays.
and that's what you want to do. You want to, as the season goes, you want to get better. And again, they picked up some players. They lost a few, but hey, I think they're going to be a problem for some teams as well tomorrow.
And I think they're going to continue to be more and more successful just because it's not just DMG as a team, it's DMG as a program, right?
Yeah, totally.
They've got 5 or 6 teams underneath them. They've got 50, 60 players. They've got 4 or 5 coaches, and Dave Baines has done an amazing job building that program. And so everybody in the program benefits from everybody else who's playing every weekend and working,
Yeah, so let's move on and talk about Aftermath. Aftermath, 3rd place here last year, and after that, an atrocious year.
Yeah.
They could not put a win on the board
And
in
it
the
just
last
got
4
worse for 'em.
events.
Like, the
It got
pressure
worse.
was
It
on.
just once that seed they lacked confidence
Right.
after about the 2nd event. So lots of changes happened with Aftermath. I mean, when I look at their roster, first of all, it's massive. John Annucci's got a lot of guys. I talked to him today. He seemed real positive about everything.
Yeah.
He understands the road that's in front of him in the test. He is going to go to a starting 5 pretty quick. Not exactly sure who those starting 5 is going to be, but it's probably going to be Davey Simmons, Zach Hill, and then looks like Cantor maybe getting in there a little bit. Corey Jones, Tim Roberts. He's still unsure, but they've got some guys from PC Katana that are on that squad. Names we've seen around before on
Right.
some of these
Guys
up-and-coming
you know.
squads.
Right.
So there's not one name on this entire squad that I've not read off before. We haven't talked about having a good point here or there. It's just, can they get 5 or 6 guys on the same page
To
with
do
this
it
new
point
squad
after
working
point.
together.
to do it well enough to put wins on the board and then
Right.
get enough wins to make a Sunday? I don't know. We
Right.
know these guys can play paintball, and he's got a brand new squad here with some guys that have played some good points for different
And
squads.
traditionally, they've done well in Vegas.
Yes, and traditionally they've done well in Vegas. Let's move on to Energy Elite. So we got a new squad coming in here, kind of merging with Boom. So they kind of have 4 guys in one part of the United States, 4 in another, and then 4 in another.
That's super tough.
Which is tough, but at least those guys can play together. And Alan really is trying to put together a winning squad.
Yeah.
It's going to take time. We've all done this before.
He's
It's hard.
dedicated he's brought the team up through the ranks. He's got guys that are driving from Virginia to Las Vegas in that van. That energy van goes everywhere. They're dedicated. He's got 50 guys in the organization.
Yeah, again, he's got a program.
He's got a
great.
program, and he wants to do well. And he knows it's going to be a rough time, but he's going to put everything out there to be competitive as best he can. And he knows it's going to be a fun time. I told him it's going to be a fun time.
Yes, it's going to be a fun time.
It's hard to do, right?
But when
Everybody out here is trying to do the same thing. We're
But-
all trying to have the best team in paintball
Yeah.
that year or that decade or whatever. And man, it's tough, right?
It's very difficult. That's why it's very hard. Not a lot of teams have won pro paintball
No,
events.
not a lot of people, not a lot of teams.
But they have a similar situation where I look at a lot of these names, and these are names that I've either seen on high-level divisional teams over the years. These are guys that have some years in the
Right.
bank that they've been. They have
some-
experience to
they have
draw
some
on.
experience, and they got inexperience. But
And it looks like it's a pretty young squad.
Yeah.
Which is great because if you have a young squad and you can kind of keep them together and they can kind of get that experience together, then you can go ways with that team.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, this is going to be a big test for them, for Level, for Aftermath, or a new squad. I mean, as we get down here, let's talk about, speaking of tests, now we get the Outlaws. So the Outlaws, they struggled, but they lost every single game at World Cup, but they had some close ones. They lost a 1-point match to Houston Heat. They got beat up by Dynasty. They lost a 4-point game. The Ironmen had a 1-point loss against the ML Kings. But Jeremy, I called him up in a conversation about the squad, and he didn't answer my call. And I saw him today. I'm like, hey, dude, what's the deal? Why didn't you pick up my call? He's like, because